Good day, everyone. This is Don Green. Many of you know me from being a lawyer over 40 years in Nevada and California, and from the gun shows, and also our YouTube podcast on the American Guns and Glory Network. We're coming to you live today from Rigel Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it is my distinct pleasure to present an election special. And I've been telling people for months that this is one of the most significant judicial election cycles which I have witnessed in over 40 years of private practice. And every vote counts, and I want everybody to meet my special guest, Judge Cynthia Cruz, who is currently the Chief Judge of the Las Vegas Township Justice Court. And good day to you, Judge Cruz.
Thank you very much for having me on today.
Okay, Judge Cruz, we're going to talk more in detail about you in a little bit, but tell us about yourself.
Well, I've been here in Las Vegas for over 55 years. I guess I'm dating myself. Grew up here. My dad was a cop. My mom was a secretary. We grew up in a working class neighborhood. Went to public school here. Graduated from UNLV on my undergraduate. Had a small business. Went back when they opened up the law school here. Graduated from Boyd Law School at UNLV in 2003.
That must have been one of the first graduating classes.
We were the third.
The third. Okay, let's have the first slide, please. Okay, Judge Cruz, on the screen here we've got you as the Chief Judge, and what I want we'll go through your endorsements in detail in a little bit, but right now, tell the audience what an endorsement is and why it's important.
So an endorsement is a group like, for example, the Public Safety Alliance Network. I'll use that. That is a variety of multiple law enforcement agencies throughout the state of Nevada. And they will have where they will invite us in. We will have to answer a variety of questions, talking about all sorts of things, our background, what our education is, what our experience is, to be able to move into, in my case, a judicial role or to stay as a judge. They'll ask a variety of things that could be sensitive to law enforcement issues, things like, hey, if you've got officers coming in and they've been working on graveyard shifts, how are you going to manage your calendar so that if they're there for witnesses, to be a little sensitive to the fact that you have a cop that's sitting there that's been up all night. And the same thing goes for victims and everybody else. There's many different organizations. They have a vote a lot of times through that political action committee to determine whether or not they're going to endorse you.
Thank you. We'll get to the specific endorsements in a little bit. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, Judge, again, you've told us a little bit about yourself. Let's go to the next one. And this is Rule 6.5. Is that Rule 6.5 of the Justice Court rules?
Yes.
And tell us briefly, what is Rule 6.5 and why is it important to you?
So Rule 6.5 it literally spells out the duties of the chief judge of the court, how we end up in this position and what the role is of a chief judge. There's very particular things. A lot of times people think, oh, you're the chief judge, you've become the boss of everybody. It's not. People think that the chief judge is now the appeal oversight committee of what another judge's ruling is. It is not. It is how we handle a lot of the operations and administrative roles of the court. And it's a lot of meetings with community partners and organizations in town as to how we keep effectively working together, collaborating to see if we can work on many problems that are going on in the community and barriers to see if we can get past them.
If we have independent judges in the various departments, why do we need a chief judge?
So just like I talked about, that there's a lot going on in our community. Our community is very large, and there are a lot of organizations. I mean, just on the criminal aspect, we've got the police, we've got the district attorney, we've got the public defender's office, we have the special public defender's office, we have the office of appointed counsel, and we all have this relationship of how we operate and do business of the court collectively on criminal matters. Well, in civil matters, you're also going to have a variety of organizations that are community stakeholders as well. And you're trying to work through how we are effectively doing business here. It's not a type of meeting where it's like, oh, well, you need to rule this way or you need to do this. That's not what we talk about. It's more on being sensitive to issues that are coming on, budgets, limitations on resources. Honestly, we'll get things where the sheriff will say, hey, we're doing some crime initiatives, so you might be seeing some more things happening that are coming through the jails. There's new jail policies, we're doing construction, there's a new case management system, there's a lot of things. So you have to have somebody that is the chief of the court to be able to have these administrative meetings, to work through a lot of the operations of the court. You have to have somebody that's kind of doing that and then feeding that information back to the rest of the bench.
Does that mean that you work with various state agencies and federal agencies as well?
Mostly state and county agencies.
What about federal agencies, like for funding? Do you have any special grants or anything like that?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So with grant funding, the federal government usually works on doing a lot of pass-through initiatives. So you could see through the Bureau of Justice Administration, there could be a variety of grants that could impact different things. In the court system, a lot of times we see these grants that can help with like court innovation, specialty courts, problem-solving courts, and that's usually what we're looking on because it's going to provide funding to help give the resources so the court can, one, either A, operate better, or two, work on specialty programs and problem-solving courts to help people that are getting involved in the justice system that may have the opportunity to get out of the justice system while being held accountable.
Here's a question I know is going to be posed by someone who sees this, whether it's on TV or a gun show, or somebody who sees me on the street. If they're already getting paid, why do they need extra money from the government or the state?
So I'm going to drive back into, for example, I do an adult drug court. When I took over the adult drug court program in Las Vegas Justice Court back in 2015, 2016, it was a little limited on funding. And what that meant is you have a finite amount of money to try to connect people with services. And if I have a finite amount of money to connect people with services, that means that I'm limited on how many people I might be able to help that are being involved in the criminal justice system due to problems with a substance use disorder. By writing a grant, I can get more funding to help more people and have them connected. What that translates into, for example, my court enjoys a 76% rate where people that graduate are not being back involved in the criminal justice system. This translates into the community. This now helps community safety. So the more people that I can get into this program, now that we have statistics that show that it works, the more that we improve community safety. So it's kind of this cycle that by seeking additional funding, we might be able to bring more dollars into our community, help businesses in our community, help people that get out of the criminal justice system. Now we're going to hold them accountable. It's not a free ride, but we're also improving public safety. And that's the one thing that I think so many people are concerned about nowadays. People worry about, and these are ways that we can start effectuating community-wide change.
So why do you think that you, with this broad-based judicial and administrative experience, why do you believe that you are the best suited candidate for right now for the people of Clark County?
Well, I think my track record speaks. I've been a judge in this position for almost 12 years. December will be 12 years. I've been an attorney for over 21 years, so I've got the experience of doing every type of case that our court does. And not only that, it's about having the track record to show that I am effectuating change. I'm a public servant. I'm a judge. I have guidelines as a judge, but that doesn't mean that I can't help out the community. And I think with just talking about, for example, the drug court, I'm showing that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing more than sitting on the bench. Not only am I a fair and impartial, knowledgeable courtroom for people to come in front of, but I'm also stepping outside of that role of arbitrating over things and saying, how can I work with our community partners to effectuate change? And then I've got the statistics to show what we are doing is good. Where I've been going is really helping our community, and that's why I feel it's very critical that I can continue my mission and I can continue the job that everybody has elected me to do to keep making our community better.
Thank you. And let's have the next slide. And tell us about the Justice Court structure. I mean, a lot of people think that Justice Court is Judge Judy. Tell us the basic structure of this court.
So Las Vegas Justice Court is the highest volume caseload in the state of Nevada, and our numbers end up being almost towards the top of the numbers caseload-wise in the entire United States. Last year alone, we had over 220,000 new matters filed into our court. And a lot of times people think that it's either Judge Judy or we only do criminal cases. And really, you need to have the understanding of what we do. So yes, we're the entry-level court for pretty much every criminal case that's coming into our system. We are where release conditions are determined at that particular point. We do the probable cause determinations for felonies and gross misdemeanors to find out if they're going to go up to further trial. We do the misdemeanor trials. But it's more than the criminal cases because half that caseload volume that I talked about is civil. So we're going to have the small claims cases. We're going to have the protection orders. We're going to have the eviction cases. We're going to have civil cases less than $15,000. Traffic is now criminal and civil. So there's a lot that's going on in our court, and there's a lot that does intersect. They say that Las Vegas Justice Court is the people's court. We have a lot of people that are representing themselves in our court in the civil realm. We are that open forum. I always say if you do end up having to be coming into court, you're either with us or family court. And a lot of times family court, probate court, and bankruptcy still intersects in some way, shape, or form with our court. So you have to have a lot of that information and a lot of that knowledge.
Why do you think that in your 12 years and all this judicial and experience and the administrative duties which you've had, well, let me ask you, do you have time to eat and sleep?
Lately, I've been a little busy. I get yelled at by my staff very frequently because I do have times that the opportunity that everybody that might need to meet with me is at lunch, and I very frequently do have that. My day starts with responding to emails starting at 5 o'clock in the morning. I've been up for about 15 minutes. I've poured myself a cup of coffee, and I'm starting to handle stuff. I've had times that I'm on the phone with a variety of community partners working through some form of issue that came up at 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night. That doesn't include if I'm on the warrant duty call where I'm getting calls 24/7. And there are days that I hit the ground running and I am on the ground running where my staff is like yelling at me that you have to stop and at least inhale something
There you go.
as you're running around.
Thank you. Let's have the next slide. So we're going to go, and we've gone through some of your judicial experience, and we see the endorsements. We'll get to those. Let's go to the next slide. Now, we always hear about improvements in the judicial system. And like you said, we have judges. They get in there and they're administrating. They're reviewing the preliminary hearings. They're reviewing bail applications, initial arraignments. And by the way, define what an arraignment is for our audience. Define that.
So an arraignment is where you are being advised of the charges that the state of Nevada or the Clark County District Attorney is submitting against you. It is a due process procedure so that you can be fully informed of what they're alleging you may have done and that you are able to be prepared to answer to those allegations.
Okay. Do you serve on any committees, the state of Nevada, the judiciary, or in Clark County? And what are those? Representative ones.
I do. I think so we've got countywide, I'll say that I am one of the chairs of the Clark County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, which is a really fancy, big, long name for a group of community stakeholders from many different courts, law enforcement, the DA's office, the defense bar, community partners, administrators, and we come to the table to start working on how can we create solutions for some of the systemic problems that we're seeing, and how can we collaborate together. That's one of the ones. I sit on the state's Access to Justice Commission, and that shifts a little bit. That moves into the civil realm. What are the barriers that people experience in being able to interact with our justice system overall, the entire court system? This could be something from language barriers to the ability to drive down to the courthouse and access getting better information out through groups like Legal Aid or the Civil Law Self-Help Center for people that feel that they need to take advantage of the form that the court operates to help resolve their issues that they have not been able to resolve independently.
Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. And now, awards and achievements we talked about very briefly, and tell the viewing and the listening audience, just representative awards and achievements, and what does that mean for your professional stature as a chief judge or as a justice of the peace in general?
Well, I think when you get a community award, I mean, number one, they're always a surprise. When we're talking about an award, it's some organization here in town has basically said, hey, you're doing some good work in the community and we want to recognize you. So for example, the Bob Gray Community Partner Award, I was very shocked to get that one, but that was because I worked on both bringing awareness about an issue with some legislation that could have collateral consequences. Even though the court wasn't taking a particular position on it, there were some concerns that I think a lot of legislatures didn't know. And by able to have that voice, it did that. Advocating for a lot, writing grants, and improving the overall treatment court process. That's what that one did. But then you have things that are achievements, and some of them are, acknowledgments as to milestones that you've reached in, for example, judicial education. So when you get on the bench, your education doesn't start just like as when you become an attorney. As attorneys, our education does not stop. We have to stay up on what's going on. We have to keep doing our legal education while it's as important, if not more critical, as a judge. So the Administrative Office of the Courts for the state of Nevada has given awards if you start achieving certain levels of education, because they want judges to make sure that they're doing education and do more than the bare minimum. So we all know what the bare minimum is as a attorney and as a judicial officer, but they want to have those recognitions. And I am very pleased to be able to have, I haven't quite gotten the top one, but I did get the Distinguished Judicial Education Award last year, meaning I have gotten over 640 hours of extra judicial education that's directly judicial education since taking the bench in 12 years. And that still doesn't count all of the other things that I go to become more aware, for example, with technology or with the administrative operations that we have to do. This is direct law education.
Why do you believe that you are the best candidate suited for Justice Court Department 5 of the Las Vegas Township Justice Court?
Well, I mean, I've been a member of our community for so long, and I've stayed here. My roots are here. I understand the needs that this community has, but it's more than that. I have the depth I have the depth of experience and I have the proven track record to be able to do this job. I don't have to learn. I would continue on with the work that I've been doing. I have hopes for continuing on with some future projects that I know that if I don't get reelected, I won't be able to do that helps the community. And that's what my goal is. You know, I didn't have to run to become a judge 12 years ago. It was a selection to transition as to what my family has done. My husband's a former military. My dad was a cop here in the community. We've always been involved in serving our community, and I had that point in my life that it was where I could start giving back.
So you come from a middle class family.
Absolutely. I can joke that I do not have a silver spoon in my mouth. I worked all the way through. I'm like a lot of people. And there's been times my family has lived paycheck to paycheck. I've lived paycheck to paycheck. I've had to pick up an extra job to make things work. I worked my way through school. And that's why I understand a lot of the people that are coming before me.
How important is judicial temperament for a member of the bench?
Well, I mean, you have to, okay, number one, you don't want to be that two parties are coming before you and you've got a judge who's like scrambling to try to figure out who's arguing what. You don't want it to be a situation that maybe I have somebody that's not represented by an attorney and then I have an attorney and they're saying things and I'm like, no, that is not what this law says. Like, you have to know your bounds. But you still have to have the right temperament because people are very passionate. Things are happening about their lives. You can't just sit there and feed into the flames. You have to be, you're supposed to be somebody that is listening and having that balance and having where people understand, like, it's not about arguing with each other. It's about, let me hear what your issue is. Let me be that forum. Let me have that I'm hearing both positions. Let me make sure that I'm understanding how it impacts your life. And then I can provide that fair ruling. And it should be in a calm way, right? This is not about a draw. We're not the UFC in court. It's meant to be an opportunity for people to be heard and to have their space to be able to have that.
What happens, for example, you're the chief judge, and one day everyone who acts as a justice of the peace pro tem is unavailable. Have you ever had a situation where you've had to literally take a double calendar because the judge didn't make it?
Absolutely.
And so tell our audience what that means when you're handling a double calendar, like for two judges or yourself and another judge. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, you definitely, are bouncing. I've done it both as just a regular judge that we had to cover for somebody that was suddenly ill. Life happens. We had a judge that got, they got hospitalized. All right, let's step in. And you have to be able to step into any type of case. Any matter that comes before the court, you as a judicial officer need to be ready to go. You need to be able to step in and you need to know what you're doing and you need to know how to handle that matter.
And you mentioned you have to be ready to go. So basically, would you say that this is not a job for on-the-job training?
Oh, absolutely not.
Why?
Well, you can't, if you've never touched a particular type of case that is in our court system, how can you preside over it? Like, if you've never touched a civil case in your life, you have no experience in doing a civil case, how can you preside over that? You're going to be trying to learn the law at the same time that people are arguing before you and wanting you to make a decision. If you've never touched a criminal case, you're going to have the same problem. And our cases affect people's lives. This is about lives. How about this? You're getting a phone call from an application from an officer in the middle of the night, and they're calling and asking about a search warrant. You need to know, what the balance and what the basis is and what standards that they have to meet. And that's at 2:00 in the morning. Like, you just got woken up. You need to know this right then. You need to have, if we need somebody to step in and cover IA court, eviction court, traffic, the civil docket, the small claims docket, the criminal docket, you have to know that's what this job is. You don't get elected to be a justice of the peace at this particular court to say, I'm only going to be elected to handle this particular type of case. No, a justice of the peace has to be prepared to handle everything that is in this jurisdiction.
Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. And we've talked about endorsements. Tell us again the endorsement process, what it means to get that endorsement, and can a committee endorse more than one candidate?
So I'll give an example. Literally, yesterday, the day before this interview, I had an endorsement interview. I walked in, sat down, and they started asking me a lot of questions about, what's my background? What's my education? How am I prepared, just like we've been talking about, to handle the cases that are before me? What have I been doing? Very similar to what we've been doing today. What have I been doing? What's my track record? Have I done any things to help out the community? Exactly what we've talked about today. And sometimes you might get the questions ahead of time. Sometimes you might get a questionnaire for you to sit down and fill out, and they're kind of picking into what your answers were. And sometimes, like I did yesterday, I walked in there and had not a single idea what the questions are going to be. And I've got 6 people that are essentially interviewing me, and then they will convene and meet and make a determination. They can, in certain circumstances, pick just one. And in certain circumstances, they might have 2 candidates that they might want to do what's called a dual endorsement. But a lot of times, the bulk will do, this is the person that they want to pick. It's almost like a horse race. They're just betting on who's going to win and who they want to put their support behind.
Is it important for endorsements like to have law enforcement and perhaps the firefighters? And why?
Absolutely. Well, I think as a judge, it's always very welcome to have law enforcement. I do have law enforcement. I do have firefighters, so police, firefighters, veterans. It's always good to have those because they're part of our community partners. There are many times that I have officers that are coming into the court on a variety of issues. We've had firefighters coming in on a variety of issues. There are many, and they're just witnesses. It doesn't mean that suddenly I'm going to, there's a cop, and so they endorse me, and therefore I'm going to rule in their favor. No, It's more being sensitive to some of the issues that we've talked about. Okay, I've got police officers there. He's been working graveyard. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. He's been up all night. Like, just trying to be a little bit sensitive of, as I'm kind of figuring out which cases to call and how to manage my docket to get everybody efficiently moved through. Maybe that's the preliminary hearing that I'm going to call because somebody has a time crunch. You need to be, you always have to be sensitive as to who's coming into your courtroom, not only the litigants, but sometimes, honestly, your witnesses, because people have lives and they've taken time out of their lives, just like people take their times out of their lives to come down to the court. You need to be moving your docket along efficiently and effectively with making sure that you're still providing that forum that everybody is entitled to.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Now, we see your slide right there in the our listening and viewing audience, or a listening audience. Would you tell them your phone number for your campaign, please?
Sure, it's 702-550-1928.
Final thoughts on this election cycle and how it impacts on why you're still running.
I think I have more to do for this community. I've dated myself by saying I'm over 55 years, but I still think I have a lot that I can bring to help our community. Las Vegas has been my home. I've never left Las Vegas, aside from a vacation and then coming back. I've never even left the state to go to school. I want to keep helping our community. I want to keep improving our community. I think this is a great spot for me to be doing that. And I bring that depth of experience to keep effectively doing my job.
And how long have you been the chief judge?
So I am almost at the end of 2 years of being chief judge.
And who elected you as chief judge?
The entire bench. So it is.
So
is
your
a bench.
peers,
Correct.
elect you.
Yes.
So your peers and the judges and the justice who are justice of the peace, and there's what, 16 departments?
We have 16 departments.
So 15 people decided, or at least a majority of 15 people decided that they would like to have Judge Cruz as the chief judge.
That is
and I
correct.
guess that says a lot about you, correct?
Well, I would hope so.
I would say so. I would say that it does. I've appeared before you were the chief judge, and everyone is impressed. Let's have that last slide to show the audience their vote for Cynthia Cruz for judge, and it's Cruz, C-R-U-Z, the number 4, judge.com, and they can reach you at the telephone number that's going to be appearing on the banner. And Judge Cruz, we'll go back to the main screen. And Judge Cruz, I want to thank you for taking the time to appear for this interview and this presentation. And thank you so much to Rigel Studios. This is Don Green signing off. Thank you again. Good day.